Hello everyone, it's Dr. Samantha Benjamin Allen here to talk to you again about another topic. Today we're going to talk about Alzheimer's disease and dementia. Did you know that 1 in 10 people develop Alzheimer's disease and 2/3 of them are women? And African Americans are more likely than older whites to have Alzheimer's, twofold. So I believe this is an important topic to talk about, and I personally lost an aunt to Alzheimer's dementia, so this is very relevant to me, and I'm sure a lot of you as well. Now, dementia is an umbrella term used to describe a series of symptoms related to a neurological condition affecting the brain, causing decrease in intellectual ability, social ability, and memory loss. So there are many types of dementia. Alzheimer's dementia is just the most common, so I'm going to focus on that today, but there are a variety of dementias: Parkinson's, frontotemporal, Lewy body dementia, among others. Those are just a few. Now, Alzheimer's dementia is marked by memory loss. Everybody associates Alzheimer's with memory loss, but so many other things go into Alzheimer's disease, and it is a very difficult condition for caregivers and loved ones to witness and manage. Now, Alzheimer's dementia is the result of plaques being formed in the hippocampus. This is an area of our brain embedded deep in our temporal lobe, and it is responsible for learning and memory formation. And this is why you notice the memory loss in Alzheimer's disease, because of the area of the brain that it's affecting. So, the hippocampus. Now, there are a variety of symptoms related to Alzheimer's dementia, and you can think of them in stages. So there's mild, moderate, and severe. And mild Alzheimer's symptoms might start with losing your sense of direction for navigating familiar places, or memory loss, of course. So maybe someone asking a question that you already answered maybe 5 minutes before, and you wonder, like, did you just forget, or is there really a memory problem here? More moderate symptoms are changes in behavior, or more aggression or agitation, or anxiety, paranoia, aggression. You might notice difficulty with calculating or managing money, or wandering, hallucinations, delusions. You hear of people with dementia wandering the streets, or making decisions that just display poor judgment. Like, you just ask yourself, how did you think that was a good idea? And poor judgment actually shows up earlier in the course of dementia. So those are things to look out for with Alzheimer's. And then more severe Alzheimer's dementia is when you start to really lose your sense of self, period. So you become very dependent for everything. Someone has to feed you, dress you, manage your hygiene. You lose bowel and bladder control. Some people can have seizures, and a lot of weight loss, which is really due to your lack of self-awareness, or the need to eat. So you just forget that you even need to eat, or don't have the neurological faculty to realize that you're hungry. So those are just some symptoms. There are many more, but I'm going to leave a resource in the comments so you can use that link and kind of do your own research to get some more in-depth information. But that extends the scope of this video, and it's going to take a lot longer than we would want it to. So I'll put the resource in the comments. Now, some challenges that caregivers might face when it comes to Alzheimer's dementia is just witnessing your loved one, or the person that you are working with, really become someone who you don't know anymore. Perhaps they don't remember you or the closeness of your relationship. They can be very paranoid and accusatory with you. They can get aggressive with you and want to fight you when you're trying to help them. And it's very draining and frustrating to manage. So some things that I just like to suggest for caregivers is really think about the tasks that you need help with. It's hard for one person to manage all of this. You know, you got groceries, you got your own needs and responsibilities. You got to do hygiene potentially, you got to manage meals, and it's just really a lot. So think about those instances where you're like, oh, I wish somebody could help me with this right now, and write it down or make a voice memo, because when somebody does ask you how they can help, you might not have an answer because you're overwhelmed and you're stressed and you can't even think what you need help with. So make a list of things as they come to mind of what you would find helpful, so that when somebody asks, you have an answer for them. A lot of times people ask how we can help and we're like, we're fine, we don't know what to tell them, and they really are willing to help, but we're not giving them anything to work with. So that's one thing. And I'm also going to leave a resource in the comments with a link to something that you can use, like tools that you can use to help organize. So maybe there's somebody who can help with meals, or you want to alternate family members to bring meals once every other week, or whatever you want to do. But it's one place people can go to kind of slot themselves in for a task, so you don't have to keep talking to different people or repeating the same thing over and over again to multiple people. It's just a hub where people can go and fill in the gaps where you need the help. And it's also helpful for people who are maybe hospitalized, and the same instance, people are asking how they can help. Maybe they want to bring meals to the house, or coordinate visits, and you want to make sure somebody's there with them, at every hour that they have visiting hours, and you can't be there the whole time. It's a hub where people can kind of slot themselves in for the different tasks that you need help with, if that makes sense. So think about that. And also, the adage that comes to mind when I think about Alzheimer's dementia is once a man, twice a child. You might have heard it before, but it's like this saying that, we are born fully dependent on our mothers and fathers or caregivers to help us get to a place where we can cultivate the skills to become independent. And then a lot of times in old age, we lose those skills and we're like children again. And I want you to think of someone with Alzheimer's dementia in that light too, so that you can glean some compassion and some patience in knowing that you're dealing with somebody who's becoming like a child because they're losing the faculties that they had to learn from childhood to become independent again. So you have to address them sometimes with a childlike creativity, just like when you're trying to get children to do something that's good for them and they don't want to do it. You got to think of creative ways to try to get them to eat, or creative ways to try to get them to take a bath and make it fun or interesting to them. So think in that mindset, and it might help. I know it's a lot more complicated than that, but that's just one little thing that might help. If you just think, I have to train my mind now to see that I'm dealing with a childlike brain in terms of what they're going to respond to and what they're not. And sometimes they're more willing to let a different family member or friend do something that they don't want you to do. So maybe there's a niece or nephew or somebody else who might be more willing to let them bathe them than you. Put them in a slot for once or twice a week to help with baths, and realize that you don't have to have a bath every day when you're dealing with someone who's struggling with Alzheimer's dementia. The bath is excellent and important now. Don't get me wrong. It helps to get the nooks and crannies. Wipes don't cut it after a while, but don't put that added stress on yourself to try to give them a bath every day, because it's not conducive to your sanity if they're an aggressive person or something. It's something that they resist. So those are just some tips there, and what to do about it. Now, there is no cure for Alzheimer's dementia. There are medications, but medications are not curative. They only help to slow the progression. And by God's grace, we'll find an answer one day, but I'm going to give you some tips to help prevent it. So maybe if in your parents' generation it's something that's been in the family, perhaps your generation doesn't have to suffer in the same way. So it's important that you have a plan when you retire. You don't want to retire and not have a plan. A lot of people, they retire and they don't have a plan. So they've been working their adult life, active, stimulating their brain on a regular basis, then they retire and they don't have a plan, and they deteriorate rapidly because they're not using their brain and they're not stimulating their mind and their body to keep functioning optimally. So have a plan. If you're going to travel the world, if you're going to learn a new language, learn an instrument, learn a craft that you don't have any skill in. Some people, they never learned how to sew, learn how to sew, whatever. But you need to learn new things to help develop new pathways in your brain to keep it growing and keep it thriving. Crossword puzzles, sudoku puzzles, math calculating problems. Try taking a new route to a familiar place so that you develop a new pathway in your brain to navigate how to get there. Because eventually the things that we do over and over again just become autopilot and we're not really exercising our brains. You want to read daily. You want to practice writing, because these are things that tend to go when someone's developing dementia. Reading, writing skills, the language skills. So you want to maintain those. Also, it's escaping me. I was going to say something else, but there's an app that you can use to practice speed, accuracy, memory, problem solving, all these different tasks that our brain does to practice these skills. And it's called Lumosity. I'll leave that in the comments. It's Lumosity, I believe is how they spell the app. But you can download that app and do 20 minutes of brain exercises a day, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever you can fit in. But it's important. These are things you can do in your younger years, like your 30s, to maintain your brain function so that as you age, you'll be much sharper than maybe you would be if you didn't practice these things. Those are just some tips. From a diet perspective, you want to avoid inflammatory things that can damage your hippocampus. So eat more plant-based foods and less processed foods. Now, when it comes to inflammation, stress is also a major inflammatory damaging factor to our hippocampus. So you want to learn ways to manage your stress, healthy ways. And you want to avoid neurotoxins. Alcohol is a neurotoxin. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but it is. It affects your balance. It affects your nerves. This is why people get dizzy and wobbly when they're drunk, because alcohol is a neurotoxin. Okay? So, do things to protect your brain, okay? Now, those are just some things I'm going to leave you with. This is a long video. I'm going to have to try to splice it or something, or maybe I'll re-record it. But anyway, I hope it was helpful. And if you're a caregiver of a loved one who is suffering with Alzheimer's, dementia, or any disabling trauma, chronic disease, or illness, and would love to partner with a physician to help them achieve increased mobility, quality of life, function, and independence, I invite you to work with me at Freedom Wellness Physiatry. www.freedomwellnessphysiatry is where you can book an appointment, and I look forward to working with you. Hope this was helpful, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.